Listen up, because this is important. You deserve to hear this truth, the kind of truth that's going to hit you hard, but also make you wiser. When a man cheats on you, he's not just breaking your heart, he's telling you something about who he really is, and it's time you heard it. Now, I know you've heard all kinds of excuses and apologies. You've heard him tell you, I didn't mean to hurt you, but let me tell you, it's never just that simple. Because when a man cheats, the first thing he's going to say to you, mark my words, is it wasn't you, it was me. These words have been said countless times in relationships, often in the context of betrayal or heartbreak. When a man cheats, this is the first thing he says. It's the excuse he chooses to try and ease his guilt and relieve himself from the responsibility of his actions. But make no mistake about it, these words are not a confession of truth. They are a manipulation, a smokescreen designed to distract you from the real issue. The truth is, when a man cheats, it's never just a simple case of it wasn't you, it was me. The reality is more complicated, more painful, and far more telling about who he really is. When he says, it wasn't you, it was me, what he's essentially doing is deflecting the blame. He wants to make you believe that the relationship was perfect, that you were perfect, and the reason he cheated had nothing to do with you. He wants you to think that somehow he's the one who was broken, the one who couldn't control himself, the one who made a mistake that could be forgiven. But what he's not telling you is that this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. He chose to betray you. He chose to deceive you. He chose to put his own desires before your feelings. And he's trying to escape the consequences of that choice by making you believe it's something that had nothing to do with you. He wants to make it sound like you were flawless, that you did everything right, and this was just a moment of weakness on his part. But the truth is, it wasn't weakness, it was a deliberate decision. And that decision speaks volumes about his character. You see, when a man cheats, he's not just hurting you, he's revealing his true self. He's showing you that he lacks respect, that he doesn't value the bond you share, and that for whatever reason, he believes he can get away with it. That it wasn't you, it was me line is an attempt to separate you from his actions. He wants to make it seem like you're blameless, that you couldn't have done anything to prevent it. While that may seem comforting at first, it's actually an insult to your intelligence and your worth. He's not taking responsibility for what he's done. And in doing so, he's also avoiding the necessary growth that would help him understand why he felt the need to cheat in the first place. This excuse is a way for him to retain power and control. By shifting the blame onto himself, he's trying to maintain the narrative that he's the one who needs fixing, not the relationship. It allows him to keep the upper hand by forcing you to feel sorry for him, rather than making him confront the painful reality of his betrayal. He wants to stay in your life and telling you it wasn't you, it was me. Is a way to make sure that you still care about him, still see him as the good guy who just happened to fall off track. But what he doesn't understand is that when you love someone, their actions matter more than their words. Words like it wasn't you, it was me may sound sincere, but actions speak louder than any apology or excuse. If he truly respected you, if he truly valued the relationship, he wouldn't have cheated in the first place. A man who cheats is a man who has made a decision to disregard the trust you've built together. And no matter how much he tells you it's all his fault, you need to realize that he made a choice, a conscious choice, to break that trust. In some ways, the statement, it wasn't you, it was me, is also a way for him to preserve his ego. He's telling you that he's the one with the problem, the one who failed, while you remain the victim of his actions. This allows him to avoid the shame and responsibility that should come with infidelity. It absolves him of the guilt he should be carrying and shifts the focus away from the hurt he caused you. By saying it's all on him, he gives you the impression that you're not the one who's been wronged, that you're somehow unaffected by the damage he's done to your heart and trust. At the same time, he's also trying to convince you that you should forgive him. If it's truly all his fault, then surely he deserves a second chance, right? Surely you can give him the opportunity to make things right, to fix what's broken in him. But this is where the manipulation becomes clearer. He's not asking for forgiveness because he truly understands the gravity of what he's done. He's asking for it because he doesn't want to lose you. He's not looking for redemption. He's looking for reassurance, hoping that you'll take him back so that he can continue with his life without the weight of his actions following him. When a man cheats, it wasn't you, it was me, is a convenient lie. It's an attempt to put the responsibility on his own shoulders while leaving you with nothing but confusion and pain. But you need to see through that lie. You need to understand that the betrayal is not about his weakness, but about his choices. And those choices are reflective of who he is, not who you are. Don't fall for the words. The actions will always tell you the truth. When a man cheats, one of the first things he will often say is that it wasn't you, it was me. It's a phrase designed to ease his conscience, to make him feel less guilty about the hurt he has caused. This is not an admission of guilt in the way you might hope to hear it, rather. It is a carefully crafted excuse that allows him to escape responsibility for his actions. The phrase is an attempt to shift the blame entirely onto himself, absolving you of any involvement or complicity in the situation, and in doing so, attempting to soothe his own inner turmoil. The problem with this is that it is more about him trying to make himself feel better than it is about taking genuine responsibility for the harm he's caused. It's an easy way out for him, a way to avoid confronting the uncomfortable truths about his choices. By telling you that the fault lies with him, he is subtly suggesting that you should not feel anger, betrayal, or hurt. After all, if he's the one with the issue, then how could you possibly hold any ill feelings toward him? This approach is not about him acknowledging that he hurt you, but about him relieving his own guilt, easing the conscience that he knows is weighing heavily on him. This method of easing his conscience is a form of self-protection. The guilt of cheating can be overwhelming, and instead of owning up to the full extent of his actions, he offers you an explanation that keeps you from seeing him in his full light. It makes him appear as though he's the victim in this scenario, the man who made a mistake because of his own flaws and shortcomings, rather than the man who made a conscious decision to betray the trust and loyalty you had given him. The "it wasn't you, it was me" statement seeks to distance him from the reality of the betrayal, while simultaneously asking for forgiveness. He wants to protect himself from the shame, the responsibility, and the judgment that comes with infidelity. What's happening in this moment is a subtle manipulation. He wants to avoid the uncomfortable truth that he actively chose to cheat. He chose to hurt you. He chose to betray the commitment you both made. Instead of facing the consequences of his actions, he throws the blame on himself, suggesting that his problems or flaws led him to make this decision. This not only minimizes the impact of his actions, but also shifts the focus away from the pain he has caused you. He wants you to feel sorry for him, to believe that his own internal struggles were the sole reason for the betrayal. This allows him to escape the wrath of accountability and shift the conversation back to his own need for understanding and forgiveness. In doing this, he creates a false narrative. By claiming it wasn't you, it was me, he minimizes your role as a person, as a partner, and as a human being deserving of respect and trust. It places all the blame on him, but in a way that lets him off the hook. He may genuinely feel sorry for what he's done, but the reality is that his feelings of regret are not truly about you, they're about him. They're about the guilt he's carrying, the shame that is beginning to surface as he faces the consequences of his actions. He wants to assuage that guilt quickly, to relieve the discomfort of knowing that he has done something unforgivable. In his mind, if he can make it about his flaws, his problems, and his inability to control his desires, then maybe you will be more likely to forgive him. Maybe you will be more likely to stay with him and help him work through his issues. The underlying issue with this tactic is that it is not about making things right or about truly understanding the damage that has been done. The "it wasn't you, it was me" statement often lacks the depth of true remorse. If a man is truly remorseful, he wouldn't try to make it seem like a mere consequence of his internal struggles. He would take full responsibility for his actions. He would recognize that his choice to cheat wasn't just about him, it was a betrayal of the trust you both had established. It was a violation of the commitment you made to one another. The idea that it was entirely about his personal shortcomings, attempts to excuse his behavior rather than confront it. In truth, it wasn't you, it was me approach as a shield. It's not meant to explain or justify the betrayal, but to protect the man who committed it from facing the full scope of his actions. It allows him to act as though he is the only one who suffered, while in fact he has caused immense pain and emotional destruction. He wants to place the responsibility solely on his shoulders, but without truly acknowledging the gravity of what that responsibility entails. The longer he continues to use this excuse, the more it becomes clear that his primary concern is not for you, the one he hurt, but for himself and his own emotional well-being. He may not even realize it, but his desire to ease his conscience is more about him seeking peace of mind than it is about offering you the closure you deserve. The reality is that true accountability doesn't come from deflecting blame or trying to soothe one's guilt with empty words. It comes from understanding the harm caused, truly regretting the decision, and making amends in a meaningful way, something that goes far beyond just saying, "It wasn't you, it was me." When a man cheats and says, "It wasn't you, it was me," he is often trying to create a narrative where you are perfect, untouched by his actions, and blameless in the situation. This is part of the deception, a careful manipulation designed to keep you from questioning your worth or your role in the relationship. It's a way of making you feel like the betrayal had nothing to do with you, as if you were flawless in every way, and his infidelity was a result of some internal flaw or weakness within him. He wants you to believe that you did everything right, that you gave him everything he needed, and that the failure of the relationship is solely his fault. But this is the first step in the deception. By framing you as perfect, he is not only protecting his own image, but also distorting the reality of what happened. The deception of perfect works on a psychological level. It plays into the natural desire for validation and reassurance. If he can convince you that you did nothing wrong, that you were everything he could have wanted, then perhaps you will forgive him. Perhaps you will overlook the betrayal because in his mind, the relationship wasn't at fault, he was. This serves to protect both his ego and his conscience, allowing him to continue the narrative of being the good guy who made a mistake, rather than someone who deliberately chose to hurt you. He may say you didn't do anything wrong because he wants you to feel like you don't have to change or improve anything. He wants to make you feel like you were perfect, even though the reality is that his actions have caused irreversible damage. This lie feeds into the myth that love is unconditional, that if you love someone enough, you can fix them, or that you can make up for their mistakes by offering unconditional forgiveness. By positioning you as perfect, he subtly suggests that you have nothing to learn, nothing to change, and nothing to regret. This places the onus entirely on him, as though he alone is responsible for the failure of the relationship. He will tell you that he's the one with the problem, the one who messed up, and you were just the innocent party in all of this. What he doesn't want you to see, though, is that this is his way of avoiding the uncomfortable truth that he chose to cheat, and that no amount of perfection from you could have prevented it. The deception also serves to make you feel sorry for him. By elevating you to a position of perfection, he makes himself the broken one, the one who faltered. His "I'm the one with the issue" rhetoric makes him seem like the one who needs help, the one who is struggling with his own demons. He wants to shift your focus away from his betrayal and onto his own inner turmoil. It's a classic move to manipulate the narrative, to make you the caretaker and the fixer rather than the person who was wronged. The more he convinces you that you did nothing wrong, the more he can pull you back into a place of emotional dependency where you feel responsible for helping him heal, for understanding his flaws, for forgiving him. But the truth is, no one is perfect. No relationship is perfect. If there was perfection in a relationship, cheating wouldn't exist. It's not that you were perfect and somehow failed to live up to some unattainable standard. Relationships are built on communication, respect, trust, and effort. When a man cheats, he's not just betraying the relationship, he's betraying the trust you've built together. He's not showing remorse for breaking that trust, but instead, he's trying to obscure the fact that his actions were driven by his own needs, desires, or shortcomings, things that have nothing to do with how well you loved him. The deception of perfect also plays into the toxic idea that women must constantly strive for unattainable perfection in their relationships. If you believe that you are perfect, you might start to question if the failure of the relationship really is your fault. You might begin to think that you somehow didn't live up to an ideal standard, that you didn't give enough, that you didn't do enough, and therefore it was your actions that led him to cheat. This type of thinking keeps you in a place of self-doubt, while he remains the innocent party, the one who fell short because of his own internal struggles. But the truth is, perfection is not the issue. The issue is a lack of respect, a lack of commitment, and a choice to disregard the value of your trust. What he doesn't want to acknowledge, and what he doesn't want you to see, is that you could have been the best partner in the world, and his decision to cheat would still be a betrayal of that trust. Cheating is not a result of your imperfections, but a sign of his. It's a clear indication that he didn't respect you enough, didn't value the relationship enough, or wasn't mature enough to confront his issues in a healthy way. By telling you that it wasn't you, it was him, and by elevating you to a position of perfection, he is trying to disarm you emotionally, trying to manipulate you into believing that the betrayal was an isolated event, something that had nothing to do with you. The reality is much more complex. Perfection is a myth. What truly matters is how we show up for one another in relationships. The deception of perfect keeps you stuck in an illusion, one where you feel as if you are somehow responsible for his actions or somehow to blame for his inability to honor the relationship. In the end, the deception is a lie meant to protect his own image, his own ego, and his own desire to avoid the consequences of his betrayal. It's a lie you need to see through because no one, not you, not anyone, is perfect. Relationships are about honesty, mutual respect, and accountability, not perfection. When a man cheats, it's not just a betrayal of trust, it's a reflection of his character. The decision to step outside the bounds of a committed relationship says more about who he is as a person than any words he can offer. It's easy to get caught up in the emotional whirlwind that follows infidelity, feeling hurt, confused, angry, and sometimes even desperate for answers. But beyond the pain lies a deeper truth. His actions speak volumes about his values, his integrity, and his ability to truly love and respect someone. What he chooses to do in a moment of weakness or temptation exposes his true nature in ways that are often difficult to face. Infidelity is not an isolated incident. It's not a mistake, a moment of lapse, or a misunderstanding. When a man cheats, it's a deliberate action, a choice he makes after weighing the consequences, consciously deciding to disregard the vows or promises he made to you. That decision is not about you, it's about him. It's about his inability to honor his commitment, his lack of regard for the consequences of his actions, and his inability or unwillingness to put your feelings in the relationship above his own desires. This is where the reflection of his character becomes painfully clear. The act of cheating is a selfish one. It's a betrayal that places his wants and needs above yours. It disregards the trust you placed in him and the emotional bond you both shared. He chose in that moment to value his own fleeting satisfaction over the stability and love of your relationship. It speaks to a lack of maturity, an inability to confront problems in a relationship, and a deep sense of entitlement. Instead of seeking solutions, having difficult conversations, or finding healthier outlets for his frustrations or desires, he chose to deceive you. This is not just about a failed moment, it's about a failure of character, a failure to live up to the values and standards that a healthy relationship requires. A man who cheats reveals his disregard for commitment. In a committed relationship, trust is the foundation. That trust is sacred, and when it's broken, it's not something that can be easily repaired. A person who can cheat without remorse is someone who does not understand or respect the value of that trust. It's a sign that he's not capable of maintaining the kind of loyalty and respect that a serious relationship demands. Loyalty isn't just about being physically faithful, it's about emotional investment, integrity, and the willingness to work through challenges together. A man who cheats shows that he lacks the strength of character to stand by his partner, to fight for the relationship, and to confront his own shortcomings without seeking validation from others. Cheating also reveals a deep level of dishonesty. It's not just the betrayal itself that reflects his character, but the web of lies that he constructs to cover up his actions. A man who cheats doesn't simply act in secret, he hides his behavior, manipulates the truth, and deceives the person he claims to love. This dishonesty erodes trust and poisons the relationship. It's not just the act of cheating that is damaging, it's the lies and the cover-ups that follow, which reveal a lack of respect for the partner he's deceiving. His inability to be truthful, to communicate openly, and to be honest about his feelings and desires shows that he's not fully invested in the relationship. His actions tell you that, at least in that moment, he saw lying and betrayal as easier options than facing the truth or having an honest conversation. Another reflection of his character is the lack of empathy. When a man cheats, he's not only disregarding the trust of his partner, but he's also disregarding the pain that he knows will follow. Cheating is not just an action, it's an emotional wound. It leaves scars that may never fully heal. The fact that he chooses to engage in this betrayal without regard for the consequences, without considering how it will hurt you, shows a profound lack of empathy. It shows that in that moment, his needs were more important than your feelings. A man who truly cares for his partner would never be willing to hurt them in such a deep, lasting way. His ability to walk away from the relationship he supposedly values and cause immense emotional pain to the person he claims to love is a clear sign that his capacity for empathy is limited. Cheating also reveals his lack of accountability. When confronted, he might offer apologies, excuses, or deflections. He might say things like, "It wasn't you, it was me," or "I don't know what I was thinking." These statements may seem like admissions of guilt, but they often lack the true accountability necessary for growth. If he truly understood the magnitude of his actions, he wouldn't just apologize, he would take full responsibility for the hurt he caused. He wouldn't try to shift the blame or hide behind excuses. Instead, he would face the consequences of his actions head on, with the understanding that trust cannot simply be rebuilt with words, it must be earned through consistent, honest actions over time. A man who cheats but refuses to take full accountability for his actions is showing a lack of maturity and a lack of self-awareness. When a man cheats, it's not about you. It's a reflection of who he is and how he sees the world. His actions show you that he does not fully understand the depth of loyalty, trust, and respect that a healthy relationship requires. He's telling you that he is not yet capable of the emotional maturity and accountability that are essential for building and maintaining a committed partnership. It's a painful truth to accept, but it is the truth nonetheless. His infidelity is not just a momentary lapse or a weakness, it's a clear and revealing sign of his character. And while it may be difficult to face, it's important to recognize that this is a reflection of him, not of you. You deserve someone who values you enough to honor his promises and who has the strength of character to face challenges without resorting to betrayal. When a man cheats and offers excuses like "it wasn't you, it was me," it's often his way of deflecting responsibility and trying to alleviate his own guilt. These words are a way of shifting the blame, making it seem like his actions were beyond his control, as though something about him, rather than the choices he made, caused the betrayal. However, no matter how many excuses he offers, it's important to understand that you are stronger than these justifications. His words are attempts to absolve, but you have the power to see through them and reclaim your worth. The first thing to realize is that no excuse can undo the hurt caused by infidelity. The emotional trauma of being betrayed is deep, and no matter what reasons he gives for his actions, they cannot erase the damage done to your heart. His excuses might range from claiming he was going through a difficult time, to blaming his actions on personal issues, or even telling you that he was somehow tempted or made a poor decision. But the truth is that cheating is a conscious choice. Every step of the way, he chose to deceive you, to lie to you, to violate the trust that you worked so hard to build together. Excuses only serve to minimize his responsibility, but they do nothing to heal the pain or to change what has happened. You are stronger than the excuses because you can see beyond the words. The excuses may sound convincing at first, especially when they come from someone you love and trust. They may evoke feelings of sympathy or make you question if you were somehow to blame. But deep down, you know that you did not cause his betrayal. The actions that led to his infidelity were his and his alone. His words may be wrapped in a veil of regret or vulnerability, but they are not the truth. They are simply his way of avoiding the harsh reality that he made a choice to hurt you. By understanding that you did not force him to cheat, you free yourself from the emotional burden of his excuses. These excuses are an attempt to manipulate your emotions. They are crafted to make you feel sorry for him, to soften the blow of the betrayal, and to place the onus of forgiveness on your shoulders. He might want you to believe that his actions had nothing to do with you, that if you were just a little bit different, if things had been just a little bit better, then this never would have happened. But these are empty words designed to play on your insecurities and your desire to believe in the best of people. The truth is that your worth has nothing to do with his actions. You are not defined by the choices he made. You are stronger than these manipulative excuses because you understand that his infidelity is a reflection of his own weaknesses, not yours. It's easy to get caught up in the cycle of self-doubt that can follow infidelity. His excuses can make you question your own value, your attractiveness, or your ability to be a good partner. You may start to wonder if you somehow didn't do enough or if something about you was lacking that caused him to stray. But this line of thinking is harmful and inaccurate. Cheating is never the fault of the person who has been betrayed. It's a sign of a lack of integrity and commitment from the person who cheats. When you allow his excuses to make you question your worth, you are letting his actions define you. But you are stronger than that. You are not defined by his betrayal. You are defined by your own strength, your own resilience, and your ability to recognize your worth regardless of his actions. In the face of excuses, it's important to remember that your healing is in your hands, not his. No amount of apologies or justifications will change the fact that he hurt you. What truly matters is how you choose to move forward from the pain. You have the power to decide how to respond to the betrayal, and you do not have to accept his excuses as an explanation for his actions. His need for redemption is not your responsibility. You are not required to forgive him simply because he asks for it or because he tries to make himself seem less guilty. You are stronger than that. You have the strength to choose whether or not you want to continue the relationship based on his actions, not his words. His excuses are just that, excuses. They are not the foundation upon which your healing or your future should be built. The key to overcoming the impact of his excuses lies in reclaiming your sense of self. Understand that your self-worth is not tied to his behavior or to any attempt to explain away the pain he caused. His excuses are distractions meant to keep you from confronting the truth of what has happened. But you are capable of seeing the truth clearly. You can recognize that he chose to betray your trust and that his words, no matter how heartfelt they may seem, do not change the fact that he violated your love and commitment. The strength to move on comes from within you. It comes from knowing that you are more than his betrayal, more than his excuses, and more than the hurt he caused. In the end, you are stronger than the excuses because you understand that you are not responsible for his actions. You are stronger than the manipulation because you can see through the words that are meant to absolve him. You are stronger than the doubt that he tries to sow in your mind because you know that you are deserving of love, respect, and loyalty. The excuses he offers are a temporary shield, but your strength is permanent. You have the power to rise above the pain, to recognize your worth, and to move forward with or without him, knowing that you are enough, just as you are. When faced with betrayal, especially in the form of infidelity, one of the most important things you can do is understand your value. In moments of pain and confusion, it's easy to lose sight of who you are, to let someone else's actions define your worth. A man who cheats may offer excuses or apologies, but none of that can change the fact that his betrayal is a reflection of him, not you. Understanding your value means recognizing that you are worthy of respect, love, and loyalty, regardless of the choices someone else made. It's about reclaiming your sense of self and refusing to let someone's betrayal diminish who you are. The first step in understanding your value is to stop internalizing the actions of others. When a partner cheats, it's common to wonder what you did wrong, what you could have done differently. You might start to question your attractiveness, your intelligence, your worth as a partner, but none of that is your fault. Cheating is a choice made by the person who cheats. It reflects their lack of commitment, their immaturity, and their disregard for your feelings, not your shortcomings. His actions have nothing to do with your value. You are not the cause of his betrayal, nor is his infidelity an indication of your worth. A key part of understanding your value is recognizing that you are not defined by your relationship. While relationships can be a meaningful part of your life, they do not define who you are as a person. You are a whole, complete individual with your own talents, strengths, and qualities that make you unique. Your worth does not hinge on being in a relationship or on how well that relationship is going. When you start to see yourself as an individual, separate from the dynamics of the relationship, you are better equipped to understand that your value is not determined by another person's actions. Whether you are single or in a relationship, whether that relationship lasts or ends, your worth remains constant. Understanding your value also involves recognizing that you deserve respect and loyalty. When a man cheats, he shows a lack of both. He disrespects the trust you placed in him and disregards the emotional commitment you made to each other. But just because he acted without respect doesn't mean you should start to doubt your worth. His actions do not invalidate the love you gave or the effort you put into the relationship. Instead, they serve as a reminder that you deserve more. You deserve a partner who values you enough to honor the commitment you both made, someone who sees your worth and treats you with the respect and loyalty you deserve. His failure to do that is not a reflection of your inadequacy, it's a reflection of his inability to recognize the value of what you brought to the relationship. Another important aspect of understanding your value is recognizing that you are worthy of unconditional love, not the kind of love that comes with strings attached or based on conditions, but the kind of love that accepts you for who you are. If a man truly loved you, he wouldn't betray you. Love is not about perfection, it's about support, trust, and respect. The love you give and the love you deserve should never be conditional on anything other than mutual care and understanding. When you understand your value, you recognize that you deserve a love that is not easily swayed by temptation or weakness. You are worthy of someone who will choose you every day, even when faced with challenges. In order to understand your value, it's also important to recognize that your worth isn't something that needs to be earned or proven. You do not have to earn respect, loyalty, or love. You already deserve them by simply being yourself. This is a crucial realization. So often we are conditioned to think that our worth is tied to how much we give, how much we sacrifice, or how much we change to meet someone else's expectations. But you are worthy simply because you exist. You do not need to prove your value to anyone. A person who cannot see your worth is not someone worth your time or emotional energy. Understanding your value means accepting that you don't have to beg for love or loyalty. You are deserving of it as you are, without having to constantly prove yourself. Part of understanding your value is also learning how to set boundaries and walk away when necessary. In relationships, especially after betrayal, many people try to hold on to the idea of love or try to fix things, even when it's clear that their partner is not respecting them. You may feel torn between wanting to give someone a second chance and recognizing that their actions have caused irreparable damage. But understanding your value means knowing that you do not have to tolerate disrespect. You do not have to stay in a relationship where you are mistreated or betrayed. Your worth is not something that should be compromised for the sake of someone else's actions or choices. When you understand your value, you give yourself permission to walk away from situations or relationships that are not aligned with your worth and to choose healthier, more fulfilling paths for yourself. Understanding your value is about taking the time to nurture yourself and recognize the greatness within you. It means not only recognizing your worth when you're in a relationship, but also when you're not. It's easy to forget your value when you're faced with pain, but taking time for self-care and reflection can help you reconnect with your strength. When you acknowledge your worth, you begin to make choices that honor yourself, whether it's setting boundaries, speaking up for what you need, or leaving behind relationships that no longer serve you. In the end, understanding your value means reclaiming your power. It's about knowing that you are worthy of love, respect, and trust no matter what anyone else does. It means recognizing that the actions of others cannot diminish who you are. You are not defined by betrayal or hurt. You are defined by your resilience, your strength, and your ability to love yourself even when faced with adversity. When you understand your value, you empower yourself to make decisions that honor your worth and move forward in a way that reflects the incredible person you are.